Chapter 10. The White Coat Question. That afternoon, right before the sun went down, Tom and Tricia came by. When Dylan opened the door, Tricia bypassed everyone, heading straight to Sky. "Tom told me what happened today," Tricia said as she hugged her. "That must have been so hard, especially with your anxiety and all." "It wasn't great, but it's over now." Sky gave her a weak smile. "Sit and visit for a while." "Just a little bit," Tom said. "I don't like to be out much past sundown. It's too hard to see in the dark." "I understand." Sky stood and walked to the open kitchen. "What can I get you to drink?" After filling a tray with drinks, she walked back to the living room and heard something Tom said that piqued her interest. "All I know is what they said, which wasn't much. Basically, the three wished these white coats would come and do their worst by us." Sky stopped, tray still in her hands. "What are you talking about, Tom?" "I'm not really sure. Calvin was running his mouth after you left, then Tony and Pete chimed in, talking about a group they called White Coats." Sky's eye lit up as she glanced at Dylan. "It's what Gregory was talking about." "Yeah, well," Dylan replied. "Let's remember that Gregory and those three ain't our friends." She set the tray down and handed out the drinks. "I know. But do you remember what Gregory said about the white coats?" His eyebrows raised before lowering into a frown. "I'd been doing nothing but trying to forget that day." "Why do you think I'd remember that?" Sky slid her hand into his. It had been a bad day, first being attacked while scavenging, then being chased down, beat up and shot by Calvin and his goons. Dylan had raced from a gunfight to save her and barely got there in time. "It's just," Sky said, "I wondered if white coats might equal medical community." So, Dylan, maybe someone is still working on this, on finding a cure." "Didn't they say something about a cure?" "Well, if that's what they think they're doing, they ain't doing a very good job at it." When Dylan indicated he was done with the conversation, Sky turned to Tom. "Maybe they have more answers than we do, or could at least tell us if we are really immune, or even if this is over. Wouldn't it be nice just to know if this is over?" "It's a thought," Tom said. Sky nodded. "I'd love to know that once these sick people are gone, that is it, and we can just, live." Tom leaned back, a thoughtful expression covering his face. "It would make sense that the government would have someone still working on this." "The government," Wade scoffed. "The best thing they did was go out of business." Tom gave him a hard look and turned back to Sky. "Any idea where these people are located?" "Tom," Tricia said, "I don't think this is a good idea. We've got enough to work on right here." Dylan exchanged a look with Wade, who raised an eyebrow. "Don't even think it," Dylan said. "It's like Tricia said, we need to work on keeping people fed and healthy on this mountain. Not traipsing all over creation, trying to find God knows who." "We're just talking, Dylan," Sky said. "There's no harm in that." "Okay, fine, let's talk about it," he said, his voice going flat. "If I remember right, they were selling people to the white coats." "You remember that?" Tom reared back. "What?" Sky held out a hand. "That could have just been Gregory." "Come on. What hospital buys people?" "I would imagine Frankenstein bought people, maybe Jack the Ripper," Dylan said. "Dylan, what are you talking about? Those aren't real people. They are horror novels. We live in a horror novel." "I thought you understood that." Sky looked out the window and chewed her lip. What if Dylan was wrong, and they could get answers? As far as the ag flu, the people are already infected. There's no stopping what already happened. Those of us who got through it just did somehow. We don't need to understand why. A frown grew on Sky's face, creating a small line between her brows. "We really don't know that for sure, Dylan. We are just hoping we won't get it again. But we could know for sure if we find them." Dylan scoffed and turned away. "If we pursued this, we would be believing people who are criminals, Tom said. Not the best thing to do. I ain't going after them, I'll tell you that. It's dangerous, and I don't even like talking about it. I'll say it again. This isn't the time to be leaving this mountain. This is the time to hunker down and wait out the worst of what's going on. The government is collapsing, Wade said. We've been out of the worst of it up here. But you better believe the healthy people left are being terrorized by the infected and sick. The criminal element will just be getting worse. I agree with Dylan. Sides, if there's any good news, we'll hear it from the containment center. It's the only place in the area there's still military. Sky sighed as Tom nodded his head. Wade had known what he was doing. Her cousin had been her only support in this conversation, and Wade had him at the word military. I understand what you're saying, Sky said. But for some reason, I just feel it could be important. We could ask around. See if anyone else has heard anything. Dylan shook his head. Come on, Dylan. What harm could that do? It'll get people all riled up. Either to go and find them or it'll frighten them. Not a good idea. Tom sat forward, elbows on his knees. I agree. We don't want to ask just anyone, but I could ask the other officers I touched base with on the radio. They may have heard something about it. He glanced at Sky. But, honestly, much as I don't want to think it to be, it's most likely nothing or nothing good. But it's got me mighty curious. Wade chuckled. Just remember what happens to the cat. Jesse looked from one man to the other. What cat? What happened to it? This'll just get someone killed is all it's gonna do, Dylan muttered. The group looked at Dylan, and Tom said, it's this group here that decides things on this mountain. If you think it's too dangerous to go out looking for them, I'm not going to argue with you. But I don't see what harm asking about them would do. I'll agree with asking around, Dylan said. Wade nodded. The men looked at Trish and Sky. Trish and Sky agreed. Okay, Tom said. We have a plan. I'll let you know what we find out. After Tom and Trisha left, Dylan looked at Sky, then slowly put an arm around her. You're mad at me? No. I understand. We both have our own opinions on the matter, but we decided you're in charge of anything that could put us in danger. So, as hard as it will be for me to step back from this, I'll honor your decision. All I ask is that when and if we get any more information about this, we have another discussion. He turned toward her and tightened his arms, bringing her closer. I can do that. I appreciate you, this. I believe in you and your abilities. Sky brushed his hair back. It would be foolish for me to question them. When Dylan smiled at her, she brought her lips to his. Maybe Tom would find out something that would change Dylan's mind or make a search for these white coats worth the risk. Or perhaps he would find out they were just one more group to stay away from.